This is the Uncultured Podcast, and this is your host, Danlock the Great, and with me are my co-hosts,
Lucille Brown.
And Yodeling Pickles. Hey, guys.
And today we're doing a book review.
If you don't know that books can be fun to read,
you're uncultured.
We're doing Fourth Wing. It's by Rebecca Yarros. She's a pretty popular author. That is how I found out about the books. And then I immediately asked for them for my birthday. And then I got 2 special editions of the books. Now I feel obligated to read them. That's what we're doing here today.
Here's the thing. Give him a signed copy. He has to read it.
Of course I have to read it. Of course I have to. I feel forced.
I've gotten a ton of signed copies, and it hasn't stopped me from not reading them. Granted, they were in lending libraries and stuff, but...
Whichever.
Hey, can I try to give a summary? All right, in a classic YA fashion, there is a girl who is like 21 or something, and her mom forces her to go to this dragon school instead of to scribe school, which is where she feels like she wants to go. And she meets this tall, dark, handsome, broody, mysterious guy who obviously hates her guts. And then she goes to dragon school and people are dying because that's how this school works. Then they get dragons, and then she somehow gets together with tall, dark, broody, handsome man. And then they leave the school. That's it.
Okay.
That was the plot. Maybe.
I will acknowledge you're brilliant.
Thank you.
She did it without spoiling anything. So I guess that's pretty good. Except I would say you need to mention about 5 times Zayden's abs.
Hey, we gotta let the listeners know. Lucille listened to the book. I read it on Kindle. And then Danlock
I read my copy. Did read my special editions. They had an extra chapter in them. I do have more content than the rest of... I have a holiday chapter. I did want to point out that the author did thank God.
Oh, interesting. I didn't actually
so
read
the author is
forward.
probably a Christian, to be perfectly honest. Anyways, the world building. We'll go back to that. I have some things I want to say about this, so I guess I'll start it. I really do like how the dragons work and their society. I'm very interested to learn more about the Dragon Society, because I wanted to know like how they do class structures, how they run their kingdoms, that sort of thing, and why they actually do work with humans. Because although it says that they don't get their powers unlocked unless they bond with a human or something like that, I want to know why in the world they're sending less and less dragons to bonding.
And I also feel like there was an interesting thing where the dragons have their own society. So dragons are in charge, but they don't take enough charge like you would think a dragon would do.
Exactly. Because they apparently are in charge, but it wasn't so much to the effect that... I guess the dragons were like, we don't want to rule everything. Which I guess I understand. I think the training place is pretty interesting. I was excited to learn what power she would get from her dragon. I was pretty excited about that.
So my opinion about the world building was, now, to be super open and honest, I did actually watch a YouTube video about somebody talking about this book before I read it, like weeks and weeks ago. I didn't know we were going to go over the Fourth Wing, so I just watched a YouTube video about it. So bearing that particular person in mind, they had a lot of bad stuff to say about the world building. I could see where they were like, this doesn't get explained.
It's a 3-book series. It will be explained later.
Yeah, that's why I was like, don't dump all of it on us at once anyway. I think that the author didn't think some things through. It is interesting that they claim in one breath that killing off our main character, for example, would cause huge backlash on the dragons. Whereas in the next breath, people are just dying left and right off of their dragons. Because you think to yourself, oh, won't that cause huge mental backlash on those dragons?
I think they established that her dragon had some real issues. They definitely established that her dragon had, like, real issues with her rider dying.
Yes, but why don't
But,
any
like,
of the rest of it?
the rest of them just don't care.
See, there's a dichotomy here.
I don't
there
see
was
the
this writer-
dichotomy. I see it as some people
Okay.
are emotional, some dragons are emotional, It's all in which dragon you get.
Okay, so world building wise, I think it was interesting. I was pretty interested. I'd say the first half of the book was establishing world building, and the second half was a romance.
I would say you're right.
There was plot at the end, but it was still couched around the romance.
Sure, I guess so. Yeah. To be honest, reading this, I did know it was a romance, so I'm not shocked.
Yes, obviously.
My
I would just say-
expectations were met.
The author started off, they were trying to do their world building, they were trying to like set this up, and then in the second half they were like, whoopsie, let me get down to that romance. And they just threw everything else out the window. But again, we can get to that in a bit.
It's true.
World building, I think that the school is fine. We don't really care about the school, it's just the setting that she was trapped in, essentially. It could have been anything else, and we would have still all been here for it, right?
I gotcha.
I wasn't super concerned about that. We were here for the dragons. I wish there was more dragons in a book called Fourth Wing about dragons.
Yeah. No, I can understand that. But I think there were a good bit of dragons. You're right. There was a little bit of a lack.
Dragons showed up like pretty soon to the beginning. That was fun.
They didn't
showed up
show up
halfway
that
again.
soon to the beginning, but
Yeah, I suppose you're right.
they showed up more like 2/3 of the way. And then...
No, a couple of times in, didn't they just jump on the ramparts?
Yeah, but we just didn't talk to them. We didn't really interact with them, so...
That's what I'm saying. Dragon did show up.
Okay.
I just thought we were going to have more interaction after that brief second.
Okay, we can move on to some things like dialogue and narration I wanted to talk about.
Okay.
I do feel like the dialogue is probably the weakest part for me, because the language used was very modern style, and the setting is obviously very medieval style.
I wanted to ask Lucille how it sounded when she was listening to it. Did it sound still modern? Were you thrown off by things like that?
So I'm not sure I'm the best to ask about this because I wasn't thrown off by it at all. I thought it was dystopian with dragons in it. And so I didn't find it disconcerting at all.
Wow.
Interesting.
That is interesting.
I did not.
Yeah, to be super honest, it threw me off as well.
It threw me very off, because I was like, I'm not sure how Game of Thrones writes either, because I haven't read that. But I hope Game of Thrones doesn't do this either, where they do a very modern type of language.
I don't think they do.
I don't think they do either.
I would say modern language showed up on like the first or second page, and it did not leave after that.
Yeah.
Just kept cropping up.
That's true. The modern language is weird to me. I don't know. Maybe the author felt that she could more say her voice that way if she did modern language, whereas medieval lingo isn't what she wanted to do. I don't know.
Yeah, it's the author's choice and how she wants to write the characters.
But I don't know. It feels odd in a medieval world.
I think it pulls you out of the story because let's take, for example, the scene where she encounters the main male character. And she says...
You mean the first scene where she encounters him before the parapet?
The third turns in my direction, and my heart simply stops. He's tall, with wind-blown black hair and dark brows. The line of his jaw is strong and covered by warm, tawny skin and dark stubble. And when he folds his arms across his torso, the muscles in his chest and arms ripple, moving in a way that makes me swallow. And his eyes are the shade of gold-flecked onyx. The contrast is startling, jaw-dropping even. Everything about him is. His features are so harsh that they look carved, and yet they're astonishingly perfect. Like an artist worked a lifetime sculpting him, and at least a year of that was spent on his mouth. He's the most exquisite man I've ever seen. And living in the War College means I've seen a lot of men. Even the diagonal scar that bisects his left eyebrow and marks the top corner of his cheek only makes him hotter. Flaming hot. scorching hot. Gets you into trouble and you like it level of hot.
But it was the dichotomy between someone talking about how they wanted to be a scribe, and then they see a hot guy and they say, he's hot, hotter than hot, gets you in trouble like hot. I was like, huh? Anyway, so the modern language was weird. For me, personally.
Yeah.
I did try to ignore some of it.
Yeah.
And there was a couple more, but I started ignoring them after a while.
The thing is, she sounds like a modern-day teenager, and which is odd for this sort of world.
Especially because her mom is a general.
And she grew up to be a scribe.
I think I can gather from the people who she interacted with in the scribe thing that it sounds like she was personally tutored by one of the older scribes.
Oh, yeah. I guess she did say that her father was sort of tutoring her with the scribe camp.
Her father tutored her, and
before he
then
died.
she said...
Her language is a little odd, to be perfectly honest, for someone who was taught by a scribe.
The other problem is that clearly she had scribe friends, and we encounter one of her scribe friends, and she doesn't talk.
Oh, yeah.
And it seems
Actually, none of the scribes talked, and I was so confused by that, to be perfectly honest.
And I was like, the scribes weren't supposed to talk because they were supposed to allow the words to, like, speak for themselves or whatever. Right. And so I was like, okay, so her, like, weirdly like sassy nature that she has would make no sense if she's been training her whole life to be a scribe.
Exactly. She just wouldn't be very sassy, to be honest.
Like, she snaps back at people.
And I think her mother realized this. She would have been a terrible scribe. Literally horrible. I am so glad she didn't go to scribe school.
Honestly, I would have been interested in scribe school just to find out what they were supposed to do. She
hated scribe school. Day 2, she would have left scribe school before dragon school, okay? Give me a break.
No, I think she would have been fine.
There was no hot guys in scribe school, okay? She would have died. She would have died.
No. We don't know that there weren't any hot guys in scribe school because we don't even really know anything about scribe school. We only meet like 2 scribes. So there could have been hot guys in scribe school.
All I'm saying is scribe school does not have the hot guys that the other school does, okay? We all know it.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
Okay.
Listen, it's irrelevant. Also, she didn't seem to care too much about the hot guys. Even
not too
you know
much.
What I'm saying? For the first half of the book, she seemed to completely ignore the fact that there were, like, hot guys.
Yeah, you're right. The first section of the book, she did ignore it. She kept claiming that she cared, but then she was super focused on her work. And I said, so you don't care.
So she doesn't care.
So you don't care. To be honest, this book series feels a lot like watching Bridgerton, which I know sounds weird, but that's exactly what this feels like. Where somebody took an old-timey sort of period, and then they said, hey, what if I just put everything modern into it? Because Bridgerton, nobody talks like Bridgerton time period. Absolutely nobody in that story. They talk like nowadays in theater dresses, okay?
I was also going to say that's actually how the Bridgerton stories were written. We can talk about Bridgerton another time.
The narration I actually liked, to be perfectly honest. A lot of the time.
Okay, so...
Do you like the fact that we were inside of her brain? Because I personally, for one, hated that.
The thing is, she's not the worst narrator. I have definitely met worse. I read through Brandon Sanderson's book. It was called Mistborn. But Mistborn book, the narration in Mistborn is very dull. Even though the world building is very exciting, the narration is very dull. And it draws you out of the story. But this, I feel into her character. The narration, she is an interesting person at the end of the day.
You have to remember that Lucille also had to listen to it.
Right. And I think that falls on the shoulders of whoever voice acted it.
Past that, so I have a rough relationship with first-person perspectives. Sometimes when I encounter them, this one was not as bad as some other ones. And technically, she is not as irritating as some other first-person perspective people. It does also help that most of the time we understood kinda what was going on in her mind. Whereas I have read ones which are first-person that I they made a decision, and even though we heard their like internal monologue, I still didn't understand what they were doing. So this isn't as bad.
I have read a lot of bad POV perspectives, and maybe that's why this one seemed okay to me. But because this feels to me more just a middling perspective, and like one of the Percy Jackson series, I would have been like, this is like Piper reading Piper's perspective in Heroes of Olympus. I would have been like, it's about the same. I'm like,
I would just say she was middling. But again, I didn't have to listen to her think.
Yeah, that's true.
Hey, I'm listening to you guys, and I agree. She's not the worst person. I'm not saying she's the worst person, obviously. I listened to Ready Player One.
Let's go. Ready Player One catching strays.
She's definitely not the worst narrator to listen to. Player One is the worst because you have to listen to it to think about pornography. It's really bad.
That's pretty bad, but I do have actually one that's almost I have one that's almost a little bit worse than that, but keep going.
But that's not as bad. At times she's a little annoying, and at times I was perfectly fine listening to it. What annoys me more is when I found out she wasn't a teenager. I think if she was a 16-year-old or an 18-year-old, which is what I thought she was coming into this story, I would have been going, it's a teenager, whatever. To find out she's a 20-year-old annoys me even more because that shows how not smart she is and how immature and undeveloped she is.
You've got a point there.
I consider that she grew up sheltered, so this is like she's a 16-year-old.
If she was a 16-year-old, I would say, this is a middling narration, not as bad.
In my mind, she is a 16-year-old because she basically is in this world.
She feels like a 16-year-old,
She acts like a 16-year-old.
She's going to school. She's basically going to high school. The thing is, they probably will hire a 16-year-old or someone who looks close to it. Because she is basically a 16-year-old. The ages here do not reflect them.
Here's what I'll say. So the author waited until the girl was 21, I think, before she decided to have her do stuff. Keep in mind that if we just ignore what age the author said she was, and we ignore the fact that the author claimed that she was in 2 previous relationships, then it's really smooth sailing from here.
I know, right? She clearly had never been in a relationship. Or they were the sort of relationships where all she did was kiss a person and then leave. I don't believe that she was in a previous relationship. That doesn't sound realistic.
I think that the author wanted her to be a strong, independent person who has dated previously so that she isn't just completely bowled over by this hot man, because obviously this hot man has probably also been in relationships. She was trying to put them on a more even footing. It just doesn't work. I don't think
the guy has been in a relationship either.
He didn't feel like he'd ever been in a relationship either, no.
No. I would guess that he had literally never been in a relationship because he is too focused on his work. And I don't really see him doing that.
You know what would have been slightly more interesting is if both of them were focused on their work and then their dragons were trying to nudge them together and they weren't taking the hint.
I would have laughed so hard.
So fun. I would have been like, I am so on board. And the dragons should be like dropping super unsubtle hints, but they're like too dumb and they're like, gotta get this report in. I would have laughed so hard. Anyway, that's not what story we read.
Thinking about other YAs I've read, Thomas in Maze Runner, even though I make fun of the fact that he whines about Trader Teresa all the time, he usually wasn't that bad if he wasn't talking about Trader Teresa. Like, he usually was perfectly fine when he wasn't whining about her. Ready Player One was never okay. He was never an okay narrator. I hated him all the way. He was like the worst narrator I've ever read through.
I will say this. If people want to read it, it's a specific thing. So when you're reading it, you think YA first-person perspective. That's what you're getting into.
Yeah.
That's what
I would say the same.
And think about her as if she's 16, because she will always act like she's 16. You should be good. There are a few spots you might want to skip over, like I did, but in general, you should be fine.
Yeah, I agree. I did at first like the guy, because we didn't know much about him. Maybe that's why I liked him.
He should have stayed mysterious. I wanted to know less about him, so he would be better.
I think that's just
true.
because immediately when they revealed things about him, I was like, oh, it's not as cool as what I thought.
Yeah, I think mysterious people need to stay mysterious. That's their allure. Like the Mandalorian, you should not take off his mask. The allure of him is that he's wearing a helmet.
Favorite characters? I would say my favorite character was probably the small dragon.
Liam, I liked him.
Okay.
I like Liam,
Liam,
her brother.
hold up.
Well, I need that explained. Why do you like her brother?
Yeah.
Well, for one thing, he's dead. That's why I liked him.
Oh,
That's a pretty good reason.
that's
okay.
I liked him when he was
Wait.
dead.
Wait, I liked him so much when he was dead because you can make up whatever you wanted about him and it would be true because you didn't know anything. So her brother could be the best person in this world.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Sure.
I
Listen,
did like the dead brother.
I liked him when he was dead.
Yeah.
Not as much anymore. The sister, on the other hand, I love the sister. She was awesome every single time we met her. She acted like a real sibling. I could tell the author has actual siblings.
Yeah, fair. I think that the sister was the most dragon sort of person in this one.
Yeah.
She felt like she was a writer. She felt like she had magical powers. She felt like she actually lived in this world and was like a part of it. I don't know why, but our main character didn't feel like a part of this world somehow.
I would swear this was an isekai protagonist, up and down.
I would not have been surprised if she was an isekai protag.
Yeah.
I
But
would
that
have been like- I
sister,
would
she
have rolled with
definitely
the punches.
lives here. Yeah.
The sister feels that way. I liked Liam. Oh, for the listeners, Liam is the best friend of the hot guy. I should probably stop calling him the hot guy. What's his name?
It's Zayden Royerson, or whatever.
Hey, you know what? I'm just gonna go back to calling him hot guy.
Okay.
So, hot guy's best friend is named Liam, an extremely reasonable name for an individual in this world.
Instead
And
of
he
Zayden.
seemed like the most well-adjusted individual I've ever seen. He, like,
yeah.
Like,
agree.
he asked her questions and was, like, respectful and would have actual, hey, how are you doing? Kind of questions, which the main character guy completely failed to, like, ever ask her. So he would show up and be like, all like, I'm broody and mysterious and, like, leaning against a wall. And she'd be like, I'm feeling so much emotions from that. And then Liam would walk up and be like, how are you feeling about the fact that Zayden and you have a weird relationship? And she'd be like, I'm not doing so great. Why is this relationship so much more like a normal, better relationship? Why isn't she getting together with this guy instead of hot broody McFaith?
Liam is actually her best friend. Now that we threw that childhood friend out the window.
I did do that.
Liam is like an actual best friend. When people say you get married to your best friend, they would marry someone like Liam. They wouldn't marry the Zayden guy at all, who is like, doesn't answer a personal question, like, what's your favorite color, without getting super offended.
Yeah, he did get super offended. That was a little weird.
He was a little offended at that. I like the mother. I know I'm not supposed to, but I don't care. I like the mother. But I was like hard taskmaster. I'm like, yeah, why not? What a great mother. Looking out for her child. In the next book, her mother will be like, oh, I killed random people in front of you or some nonsense. And I'll be like, oh, I guess you're evil. Whatever. I'm feeling like Mr. Snow in Hunger Games. I'm gonna like him, even if he's evil.
I want to know if she actually is as one note as the author was insinuating that she was. Because there's nothing wrong with making a person as one note as they are. But it would be more interesting to flesh out the character. If it follows the pattern of other young A novels, then they're not going to have that. It'll be after the mom dies that they
I
have
don't really want that.
not a reconciliation, but they would just have an acknowledgement that the mom isn't as bad as the main character thought or whatever.
Sure. But all I'm saying is the mother did marry the father, and the father did marry the mother for some reason.
The problem with the author's single throwaway sentence is much like with her age, you can't listen to it. She did say that her mom was different when her mom was married to her dad, and then her mom closed off and became darker or whatever when the dad died. But you
also
never showed us. It's a show, not tell. We heard from one sentence that the mom was different. The daughter clearly never seemed to have a relationship with her mom anyway, because she doesn't feel bad that she doesn't have a good relationship with her mom, or like that the relationship soured. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
I personally think that the TV show they're making might do better with this sort of thing. They could show like flashbacks to her mom before, so you actually might feel something, whereas you don't feel anything from a throwaway line in the book, but a TV show might do this part better.
Yeah,
Maybe.
I agree. Gives the mom more facial characteristics that we'll be able to see, because right now I think we encounter the mom 3 times.
Yeah, something like that.
In the entirety of the book. And the first 5 or 6 pages of the book, one time when they're walking down a pathway and one time at a party.
There was that time when her mother said, yeah, I think you would do better at dragon school. Did her mother say something like...
It was still in the first, 5 or 6 pages, so...
Yeah, but I was like, I don't know why you have such a bad relationship with your mother, to be perfectly honest.
That's the problem.
I just don't know why she has a bad relationship with her mother, because it doesn't really seem like the other sister has a bad relationship with the mother.
I think that the author wasn't focused on that. The framework of this story is that her mother forces her into dragon school, and someone who forces you into doing something is usually not somebody you're not going to be working on that relationship. You're now working on the fact that you're now forced into doing something.
Yeah, I guess so.
So hey, you can like the mom. That's not a big deal. I don't care. We've only met her like 3 or 4 times.
I'm probably just making up things about the mother, and that's why I like her.
Hey, that's fine.
But to me, she just seems a stand-up person, so I'm like, yeah, why not?
I liked the main character's scribe friend. I wanted more of her. I couldn't tell if she was signing because she cannot talk or if that it was part of her scribe duties.
I have literally no idea, because did we interact with literally any other scribes?
Well, one of her scribe friends was gonna marry Liam, that's for sure. He was like hitting on her scribe friend, and so he definitely needed to marry her.
Yeah,
that was the only interesting.
I was more interested on that girl, but
I was more interested in that relationship than the main character's relationship with Hot Man, because it would be a slow burn.
Yeah,
it would be a slow burn.
Yeah, this is not very much of a slow burn.
Sure isn't.
Yeah, if you're looking for a slow burn, this isn't it.
Unless you consider the first half of the book to be the slow burn part. But I just don't think they interacted in the first half of the book.
It doesn't feel very slow burn when there are interactions where you're super hot.
Yes.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's so true.
This isn't Pride and Prejudice.
Let's get to the bad character.
Bad characters.
I have an opinion.
There are a lot. There are characters that I just feel were not fleshed out and were not done well.
Correct. I'm going to start off with our main girl character.
I think she can be the best and the worst at times, but yeah, go for it.
The problem is that the author claimed that this girl, and this girl claimed that this girl was a scribe person, loved scribe stuff, never wanted to do anything else, which is a clear lie, and she didn't seem to know who she herself was as a person. We'll take one scene, for example. There's a guy who's about to throw her off the ramparts, right? She gets off the ramparts. She whips a knife to his privates, and so he stopped. And then they say, okay, she is actually a dragon recruit because she got off the ramparts, and he's still not off the ramparts. So he is technically not even a dragon person. And they say, you can take him out if you want. He was going to kill you, you can kill him. And at this point in time, if she had said in her mind her own morals this is our opportunity to understand who our main girl character is, what her motivations are, how she wants to navigate this terrible world. The sentence that she thinks in her mind is, I don't have a good angle to slice this guy's throat. And so it wouldn't kill him. And even if I did neuter him, he would still be even more mad at me if that were possible. And so she lets him go, and he becomes obviously a bad guy throughout. So the problem is that she could have killed him because she is supposedly a scribe. She knows tons of information. She would have known that there is a large vein in somebody's leg that if you cut it, they're just going to bleed out right there. Slash, she also had her knife against his most vulnerable parts. You might as well just take him out. He was going to pick you up and throw you off and kill you.
Yeah.
He was looking at her with death in his eyes. In fact, he gets down off the ramparts and he like comes up to her and he weirdly sniffs her and he says, "I'm going to kill you." Okay.
Yeah, that was
this man is going to kill you. We know that this man is going to kill you. So like, why didn't she take care of him right then? If she had given me a better reason than, "Oh, I just don't have a good angle on him," I was like, you do have a good angle on him. You don't have a good angle to slice his throat, but you can kill somebody without slicing their throat. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then later on, she was like, "Oh, I don't want to kill people." And I was like, then why didn't you say that previously?
Yeah.
It's almost like the author just in the moment, then the girl makes just various different decisions. The entire time I wasn't sure who our main character was, which I consider to be a bad character. Because if we're going to be following this person, like, I might not agree with your decisions, but I want to understand your decisions. And I didn't understand that one. If you'd given a different explanation, I would have been like, okay, but it was like a missed opportunity. That was just a straight up, whoopsie, I didn't take care of my murderer. Oh, he's going to be annoying later.
I gotcha.
He's going to try to murder me 17 times.
I also didn't like her friend that she made, but not that her friend that she made was really in the story.
That's true.
That friend that she made, I thought that she was going to play a role in this story and be her friend. And then she just disappeared. And I went, what happened to that girl? As our main character completely forgot that girl existed.
That girl kept showing up, but not for anything useful. In fact, Liam became her friend over that girl.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
It wasn't
right,
just...
because I was like, I'm not really sure what this girl's here for. I'm not really sure how this girl is surviving dragon school, because we don't know anything about her.
Yeah. Oh, actually, that's not quite true. I think that the author did try to shove her in as a person who would help our main character get stronger, except halfway through the story, that other person comes in and is just twice as good at helping our main character get good. So
exactly. And then that girl was forgotten about. I didn't know how to feel about that girl, because maybe
she didn't matter that much.
She did not. And didn't she literally never use her powers?
Oh, what powers did she have?
It was like teleport over small distances.
No, she used it one time.
She used it like one time.
To show us that she had the power. Yeah, to show that she had those powers.
I guess I was a little annoyed that we spent any time on the girl because we didn't flesh her out at all. I still know nothing about her, except that she sleeps around.
That is her only character. I'm going to go back to world building, and I'm going to say the author did not do enough to explain people's magical powers.
That's true.
I was always wanting to know more about the magical powers, and we were getting zero about that.
I know.
So I will say that is definitely a problem, because we didn't understand how the dragon's interaction gave you more powers. We didn't understand the powers. A kid got his neck snapped because he had magical powers, and they were ones where he could read people's minds. But the bestie brown-haired man also can read your minds when he puts his hand to your skin. Explain that, friends.
And you can also shield yourself off, which is what they should have been teaching these kids to begin with. Because if you can shield yourself off from all other powers, then those powers don't really matter. They should have been teaching everyone to shield.
Yeah, I thought shielding should have been the most important power. Jeez.
So what I'm saying is the author did not explain the magic system, and it's almost like magic stuff cropped up, and she'd be like, yeah, this is another power, and you're like, whoa, explain that, and whoa, the ramifications of someone having, and then we moved on. That one guy got metal powers, and the only thing we really heard about it was he was like, oh, I'm a little concerned to eat with a fork. That was it. Anyway, I'm so sorry. Oh, yes. I'm about to embark on the dumbest character, the best friend. Was Dane ever a friend? Ever? The author... Okay, so listen. I occasionally read romance books for fun. And occasionally in those stories... the main girl character will have a fiance or something like that, or a boyfriend. And it's important that the author kicks that guy to the curb as fast as humanly possible so that he's not in the way of this relationship. And so when you read those romance stories, you're often, who would date this psychopath? Because he just stole all of your money and drove away in your vehicle and is sleeping with 16 women on this. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Like, how did you get together with this psychopath? And the answer, of course, is the author put you together with this man so that you could get together with a different man. And that, of course, is the characterization of Dane, the second lead in this book. He is not a second lead. He could never be. The author started off by saying that he had brown eyes and brown hair. That's the least interesting main character who could ever be. We knew he wasn't in the running. But past that, Dane, the author gave him the creepy power of being able to read her mind, and for some reason the main girl character didn't instantly abort her friendship with him.
Yeah.
Which is shocking.
Maybe she just didn't realize the ramifications of that.
It unfortunately means that when the main girl character's sister said to her, "You are the smartest girl I know," I said, "Oh no. Everybody's as dumb as a bag of rocks." That's a shame. Because if this is the smartest person and she thinks that Dane is not reading her mind with his magical powers every time he touches her face, then you've got another thing coming.
Yep. He touches her face every time he talks to her. She said that he does that all the time.
That's so uncomfortable.
And that
Please
guy
stop
has
touching
been
her
reading her thoughts every single time. It is the worst.
Yeah, I understand why our male lead, Xaden, didn't tell her stuff because Dane was reading her thoughts. But at the same moment, no, he wasn't. Because when we get that final chapter where he's talking about his thoughts, where Xaden is talking about his thoughts, and we get Xaden's narration, I would have given him a break if he was like, Dane's reading her thoughts, so I can't give her information. But Xaden's argument is, oh, I thought she would be mad at me or something. So it's not because Dane was reading her thoughts.
I haven't gotten to him and how bad of a character he is yet.
Yes.
Do agree. Final 2 chapters. Listen, listeners, you gotta understand. We were following this girl. We kind of think she's a little bit dumb, but that's who she is as a person, okay? She is our main character, so we're following her. We're on for a ride. Listen, we've encountered dumb characters before, and females in romances are often really dumb, so I was giving her generous leaps of logic. However, unfortunately, we get 2 chapters at the end where we unfortunately get the hot guy's perspective, and we should have never gotten these because it makes him far dumber than I thought he was. Yeah, he didn't figure things out. He's just bad at communicating.
I wouldn't even say that. Say the author should never write from a guy's perspective again.
Ooh, good point. That actually might be the problem.
Because I think that is the real issue, because I don't know any guy who would think like, this is craziness to me.
Yeah.
I'll speak for the males. They will let me speak for them because of this. Nice. This ain't no male.
It's pretty bad.
I've never seen a man be so simpering in a chapter in my life. I was like, no, ain't no man is simping this hard. We ain't doing it.
Or
I'm sorry.
I mean, it was really pretty bad. It would have made a lot more sense in his mind and out loud if he said, listen, that guy has mind reading powers. Of course I wasn't telling you everything. It would have been like understandable. Exactly. The rest of us figured this out. As soon as we heard that he had mind reading powers, I said, bummer. I know how this story's going to go. And that is mind violation. Yep. Mind violation coming up.
But the problem is he could have still given her clues that because she's as dumb as a sack of rocks and Dane can't be any smarter than her because she's the smartest person that anyone knows, then Dane wouldn't have been able to figure out anything either. The only clue that gave Dane anything was that he told her where he was going one time. other clues he could have dropped wouldn't given Dane anything. It wouldn't given Dane anything. If he had maybe told her that the history was wrong, or maybe told her that there were hints of the Griffins not being so bad, these sort of hints would have worked better than telling her where he was one time.
Mission.
Sort of hints would have helped her turn to his side at the moment that the Griffins appeared, when he stupidly took her on a
mission.
Yeah. Unfortunate.
I was happy that he just didn't tell her how to shield her mind first.
Yeah.
Because that's what he should have done.
Again, he should have taught the shielding the minds. I'm really not sure why he brought her on this specific mission either. I can't remember why it was important that she went along with him on this mission.
Seem important, to be perfectly honest.
I thought that he was just bringing her along because she was hot. Was it also related to the dragon thing? Wait, it was related to the dragon thing.
Yeah.
The dragons had to be together.
Yeah.
Okay.
It wasn't really, because he could have gone and met up with her every few days because he did that previously. So it wasn't really.
Because he knew who he had with him on the mission. No, it's definitely chalking that up to.
And,
he was thinking about sleeping with her instead of actually thinking, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, again, I will say, Dane, terrible character. The author actually did a really good job with him in making him a bad character.
Yeah,
I think that the
he's
author did a great job at that. I was like, oh, the author knows how to write, like, the really terrible, like, dumb ex-boyfriend kind of guy. Like, the author's good at writing that guy.
Why I want to read the second book is to see this guy get his comeuppance.
He might not get his comeuppance until the third book.
You're right. It might not be till the third book. But it is something I do want to see.
For sure. And it is nice to just have a purely evil character, because that's just who this guy was. Yeah. I appreciate it. No person out in the world is like this person. These people are always just, I am a evil caricature in a book. Because nobody in the history of ever acts like this.
Oh,
man.
He's so bad.
Interested in her, and he chose not to be together with her because he cared about the dragon things or whatever. But then he also liked the other girl, and then he was like, I'm going to read your mind in front of everyone. And then she was like, no. And he was like, oh, I'm so hurt. Instead of you allowing me to rip stuff out of your mind, you showed it to everybody in the whole room. I'm so hurt. And she's like, you didn't ask permission to, like, read my mind. And he's like, oh. And then still never asks permission to read from her mind. Anyway, again, not a real person. Definitely a caricature of a person. I like how he was like, wait, you're sleeping together with this guy? It was nice knowing you, sending her off to her death. I said, what a classic evil caricature.
Wow, he's so bad.
I said, that's
He goes, oh, you're sleeping with that guy I don't like? Yeah, you can go die now.
Yeah.
And I go,
I was like,
wow.
so funny.
Instantly got over it.
So honestly, I've changed my mind. Love that guy. Good character.
Crazy. Let's switch gears to maybe some more of the plot points of the story.
Okay.
If we're going to start at the beginning, I have some notes written about the beginning
what
and
do you
my
got?
thoughts on the first two chapters. I started writing notes because she was so irritating. In the middle, she wasn't so irritating, but at the very beginning when we were meeting her, she was really off-putting.
Okay.
If she had faked her death on the first day and had taken someone else's identity to be a scribe, then I would believe she was the smartest person that people knew. I would have believed it. But is frankly offended when people try to get her out of being a writer, even though she claimed that she is forced to be a writer. And she's super offended when anyone says, hey, let's get you out of being a writer, which you don't want to be. And she's super offended. You call me weak, even though she calls herself that on a daily occasion inside her mind.
And she clearly is weak. Let's just point that out.
Yeah.
She is so weak. She has to have a saddle made for her because she can't stay in her seat. And no one else has a saddle that ties them to their dragon.
Yep.
I don't know why everybody doesn't have a saddle.
Yeah.
Why doesn't everyone have a saddle?
Because people fall off because of no saddle.
I don't know why she's being excluded out, why everyone couldn't get a saddle. Why do we have to kill people over the no saddle incident, but then she gets a saddle?
I know,
Yeah.
I know. And I was like, if this dragon likes her enough to do a saddle for her, I'm sure there's other dragons that like their riders enough to do a saddle as well.
I was like, let's just project into the future a bit. Your rider might start getting older. Like, they could be a 40, 50-year-old kind of rider. Because you keep your rider until they die, correct?
Yeah.
And dragons live for thousands of years, and riders live until they die. Logic, to me, would dictate that you just have a saddle that you can easily strap in and out of. What's that author who wrote that other dragon series? It's not important. But they had saddles. They would also have an entire, like, harnesses and a whole bunch of other people strapped onto the dragon in the other one. Everybody worked really hard on getting on and off the dragon quickly, and like working on getting the buckles and everything on and off the dragons.
Game of Thrones has saddles.
Yes, they do. They do have saddles on their dragons.
Yeah, I just
Makes
said,
more
listen,
sense.
I understand that a lot of dragons, maybe you don't, but I was like, so they were making like, oh my goodness, she's got a saddle. And I was like, that just means that she can do her job better than you, because she doesn't have to worry about hanging on. She
I
can
know,
work
right?
on like waxing things with magic, which,
I
if you
know.
recall, is what you're supposed to be doing as a writer.
Yeah, and I don't know why in the
Whatever.
world you just gotta hold on with your legs. And I was like, if they're doing somersaults, no one's holding on with their legs. I was like, that sounds impossible. I thought
I mean,
it was
the
going to be
people who
some
fell
magic
off-
thing.
The people who fell off died, so
Yeah.
they didn't have to worry about those people anymore.
Yeah. Although I just
Anyway.
didn't know why everybody wasn't falling off, because how in the world are you supposed to build the biggest thighs ever?
Yes, if the
Okay.
TV show doesn't have just fat-thighed people walking around, just the largest and fattest of thighs, pad those thighs so that we can assume that those are all muscles. I desperately need to see that.
Actually, just give everyone a saddle. I don't
Oh,
care.
that'd be pretty
just,
funny.
Just forget about the book doesn't have saddles.
Such a small plot point, but it just doesn't make
It
any
was a
sense.
dumb
But
plot
anyway,
point too. I didn't
was.
get it.
the only reason they did that was to show how weak she was.
They could have
Once
just
again-
showed that she was weak because she couldn't get up her dragon. That's totally fine. They didn't need to
did-
show it
they
with
did
the
say that.
saddle. I don't know what the point of that was.
Yeah.
Because I can believe that other people are running up their dragons, okay? That makes sense
Yes,
to me, you
and
know?
then climbing into their saddle would make sense.
Yeah. I'm like, yeah, that just makes sense.
Yeah.
A saddle is not hurting a dragon. Jeez.
Yeah, and I was also going to say that clearly her dragon didn't care about it, which means it doesn't make sense that any of the other ones did either.
I know.
Unless they do, in which case that person learns to use their fat thighs.
And also, I have a note saying when she starts poisoning people before her meets with them so that they won't come to the meets or suddenly get sick and throw up in the middle of fighting her, the hot guy weirdly claims that he's the only one who knows this and that this is a secret, except that she's not keeping it a secret and she's clearly doing it, and everyone should know she's doing it because she is being obvious. She may think she's hiding it, but no one should be confused.
Hey, Lucille, you forgot. She's the smartest person that anyone knows.
That's right. He is the smartest person.
Everybody else, okay, here, think of it like this, okay? The equivalent would be is that she used to be a nerd in school, but then she joined the popular hot kids group. So they are as dumb as humanly possible, all of them. They're just hot, dumb people.
Yep.
Even though it says that they're the top percentile of everything, they're just the hot, dumb people.
Her mother is a dragon rider, and her mother actually does the taxes
Yes.
for the entire society. And I said, what?
Yeah.
I said, what?
Said,
I said, what? Why do the scribes not do that? What is she doing? And the scribe's job was take some notes. And I said, what is going on here?
pretty fun.
They did all the infrastructure, all the accounting for society. But then her mother was doing accounting. And I was like, nah, you cannot be serious. That means the scribes actually don't do the accounting at all. I did want to point out the scene of the dragon choosing ceremony, because I thought it was probably the best scene. I thought it was the best moment for him, personally, because it showed that he would break all the rules and it didn't really matter.
Yeah, so here's what I would think. I think that was the central scene that the author wrote around.
The reveal of Dane saying he would never do that was the two most important scenes for me.
Yeah, I agree. So some of the stuff seemed almost like the author was trying to get to something specific. Sometimes authors are trying to get to a really interesting scene, so I can understand when stuff isn't as interesting right this second, because we're going to get to something real cool in a bit. For the listeners, the really cool scene that we're talking about is they encountered the dragons before, and the dragons did kill some of them off. If the dragons didn't like you, then the dragons killed you as you were walking past them. That's just how it went.
And she used her How to Train Your Dragon knowledge to not.
So yeah, she used her How to Train Your Dragon knowledge because obviously she read those books. And then she also has an outfit that has dragon scales. And so like 2 dragons came up and sniffed her. And then she was like, oh, this is my sister's dragon. That's why I smell like dragon. And they were like, cool. And so that was fine. Now that the dragons have encountered them, they've encountered the dragons, it's now time to, quote unquote, choose your dragon. Fun fact, there was a small gold dragon at the very end, and for some reason, the dragon writers thought that it was a fully grown dragon, and they were like, it's small and weak and lame. And actually, some of them physically said that in front of that dragon. I thought they were going to be burned to a crisp because the dragon was sitting right there. Like, they were, like, right next to this dragon.
I was like,
what,
you
like,
think you could take a dragon? It breathes fire.
And then they
you
were
don't.
like, that dragon is lame. It looks dumb.
So
and
during
the
dragon choosing ceremony, these 3 guys go out to go kill this gold dragon because I guess they're obsessed.
Yeah. So for some reason, again, the author just made these guys evil. Keep in mind, one of those guys was the guy who said, I'm going to murder you, and weirdly sniffed her.
Yeah.
They say, we gotta kill off the little gold one instead of finding their dragons, which I would have thought was the most important thing. Because if you don't find a dragon, you're still stuck in this school hoping that next year you're going to find a dragon.
I was kind of confused because I was like, why would you group up with these other people at all? You wouldn't group up with anyone because you need to find your own dragon.
Yeah, it made no sense. But these 3 guys are like, first, we're going to go murder a dragon. And then second, we're going to go find our dragons.
How will that endear you to another dragon when you kill a dragon?
When you go and kill off a dragon, if the dragons haven't killed that one off, then clearly they don't care about it. And so you shouldn't take it upon yourself to go murder a dragon. But anyway, these people who have
2
rocks in his brain, just 2 rocks, they go to kill it off. So she runs around them. She said, I may not be strong, but I am fast. So I can't pick up a sword, but I'm really good with daggers. I just want everybody to know that because it's the dumbest sentence I ever read in my life. Because she has the bones and limbs fall off disease and the organs melt in your body disease. And somehow she says, I'm really fast and can use daggers, but I can't pick up a sword. Anyway.
It's best to ignore that and just think that she has actual magical ability.
So dumb. I'm sorry. So then she tells the golden dragon, hey, get out of here. They're coming to kill you. And the dragon doesn't move because what? And they're like, we're going to kill you. All 3 of you before you can kill this dragon. And then she does pretty good.
Yeah, she like stabs like 2 of them or something.
Yeah, she's like doing all right. And then the 3rd guy's coming after her, and keep in mind that she has the like limbs pop off disease or whatever.
And then we see in the trees next to us is one of the moderators, and it's Zayden. And he's just standing there, looking intently.
He's watching this. His dragon, by the way, is behind him. So he has an enormous blue dragon behind him, and he's just standing, chilling, leaning against a tree. And at this point in time, you'd be like, maybe we shouldn't kill the small golden dragon because there's a whole nother dragon here. The guy's, I'm going to murder everybody here. And then he says to the moderator, hot, non-mysterious man, he says, hey, you can't do anything about this. I'm going to murder her in front of you. And the important scene, of course, is that he does take a step forward. like completely ignored all the dragon rules.
And he was
everything.
like, yeah, because they're like, oh, you can't step out here. You can't do anything here, even though you're a moderator.
Oh,
He was
or
taking a
was
step
certain
forward, and then the other dragon showed up, and he was like, oh, okay, I guess I'm not needed.
Yeah, so he took a step forward, and then a giant black dragon, obviously the coolest dragon ever, the strongest, most amazing, unbonded, the coolest, only two black dragons in the world.
Yeah. Tarn or
And one
whatever.
was, yeah. Anyway, it shows up, and it says, so you were going to murder a small gold dragon?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, no.
No.
It kills two of them, and
then,
the other one runs off.
Yeah, kills two of them. One of them had already run off or something like that. The kind of annoying bad guy who weirdly sniffed her, he ran off because he's got to show up to die later.
Yeah, exactly. But she inevitably gets back to a thing, and then she asks Dane the most important question in the world. She said, yo, would you have done anything? Would you have helped me? And he's like,
Nah.
I would have let you die. And you're like,
Well,
what the? Like, what
You're like,
the?
and at this point, dear listeners, any of us would have been like, we are no longer friends. Because if your quote unquote childhood friend,
It's
a
not like,
hot guy who
nah.
you thought you were in love with for a brief bit, or you thought at least you were going to sleep with because he was hot, if that man says to you, yeah, I would feel bad about it, but I would watch you die.
You'd feel bad about it, guys.
You'd feel bad about it, huh? The correct response is, we are no longer friends. Previous to this as well, he kept trying to kick her out of the Dragon Riders. At first it made sense because she wanted to be a scribe.
Like, it's time to leave, girl. It's time to leave.
In fact, it detailed, she was like, she was pretty excited to see him, even though, of course, every single time the conversation would roll around to him trying to kick her out. And I was like, why do you hang out with this man?
Yeah,
And why do you keep calling him your best friend?
Yeah.
Avoid him.
Yeah,
Like
please
the
avoid
plague.
him. This man sucks.
It's been at least 6 months, and every single day this man is coming up to you and trying to kick you out of the Dragon Rider school and reading your mind by creepily touching your face. And then the final nail in the coffin for the rest of us was when he said, nah, I would watch you die. I'd feel bad about it, but I would watch you die. And at that point in time, all of us who are real people would say, ooh, friendship over. And he's like, you understand, don't you? And she says, yeah,
No,
I understand.
Understand.
And we were like, no.
What?
Huh? Hello? Anyway, no one understands. And she still somehow stays friends with him and is still cool with the fact that he touches her face all the time.
Oh, yeah. It's so weird.
Because he, like, kisses her after that. Yes.
Oh, yeah, he totally does. And then she was like, that sucked. I hated kissing him.
And then she was like, oh, that was not a great kiss. And she's like, let's just be friends. But what he heard was, yeah, we can't date right now because I'm in a position of authority over you or something. So we can't date right now. But everybody's sleeping with everybody. So
And I was like, is it actually a rule that you don't sleep with someone outside of your year?
Rule, right?
I didn't
see that rule.
No one had that rule. I didn't think you would actually get kicked out of the school if you were caught. To be perfectly honest, I don't think you would.
Another scene that needs to be discussed, listeners. The rules are super dumb. You can kill anybody if you're sparring with them, you can kill them, or if you like challenge them to a duel, you can kill them. But, and this is a really hard and fast rule, you can't kill them if they're sleeping. And of course, all of us say, how can you prove that they're sleeping?
The answer is you can't.
And the answer is you can't. This is a real dumb rule. But anyway, everybody feels safe to sleep because no one can kill them during that. But you'll never guess, people try to kill her while she's sleeping.
Not shocking, to be honest.
And so she has to defend herself, and then eventually the girl who let them into her room gets put in front of a whole tribunal thing, which I thought was like pretty fun. Our main character's no, don't let it happen, or something like that. And then hot guy was like, it's gotta happen. And then Dane's creepily trying to touch her face to read her memory to see if that really happened. And then she was like, don't touch me. This is the only time she says that. And then she instead shares, the dragons shared it with everybody in the entire room.
Yes.
And Dane gets extremely hurt by this, that she would, instead of personally sharing it with him who is creepily trying to grab her face, she would instead share it with everybody in the entire room.
Yeah.
We don't know why he thought that he was privy only to this personal information, but we do know that he liked that lady better clearly than our main character.
Oh yeah, clearly. He might have been sleeping with that lady, to be perfectly honest.
Keeping our main character as like a side hustle, but like a side hustle he's not sleeping with.
A side chick he didn't sleep with. I don't know. Don't get it.
It's not even a side chick, man.
I don't know. Okay. Maybe the general told him to keep a close eye on her.
I thought that the courthouse scene was pretty good.
Makes sense to me. They claimed that there was a king, and then they claimed that there was the general. And it made it seem like they were the same person at one point, and I was a little bit confused.
True. They did do that.
They did do that. That's what I thought, because they were like, the general can't see into the future of him, of Xaden. But then the king was the one who asked about that. It wasn't the general. So I was very confused, but because then they said that the general is wearing awards that he never earned, but I was like, he's the general, so he did earn those because he's a general and he's actually out in the front.
I thought there were two different people. So here's how I think it is, and I could be wrong. Okay, so there's the king, and he was wearing all the medals that he didn't participate in those battles, but he is wearing them as if he like did anything.
Okay.
And then there's the general is the person who has the other black dragon, so that we know that our main character has to go against him. And he always has a weird creepy look that makes our main character uncomfortable. But then her mother is also a general. I guess there's two generals.
No, I thought her mom was a vice general.
Is she?
Yeah, she's underneath the general guy.
Oh, okay. That's probably why she's doing the taxes.
Yeah, she's directly underneath him. And she was doing the accounting for all the barracks. And I was like, that's a bit much. And maybe the scribes, maybe you can outsource that to the scribes. What? Why were the scribes not doing the accounting?
I don't know. I genuinely have no idea.
Aren't they good with numbers? Aren't they good with books? Get them over here. Jeez.
I said, aren't they super skilled at writing quickly?
What's the point of all that intelligence? And then what are they doing? Just writing? Useless to me. For sure.
Who
cares about librarians this much? This is nonsense.
Hot brooding man is actually the son of a rebel, and he has 50 or something other rebel kids who he's like in charge of or something. The rebel kids aren't supposed to meet together in groups in groups of 3 or more. And he has all of them meeting together so that he can help them not die and give them like pointers. I'm in charge of them kind of thing.
He's doing like a parent's duty.
Older brother, making sure that they stay alive in school kind of thing. That's fine. Reasonable. She, of course, doesn't turn them in because he's just helping out kids. So she's whatever.
She's like, I don't really care. Yeah.
No, I don't care. We know that Dane would have instantly turned them in so that they could all die, but whatever.
Yeah, but that's because Dane literally hates people. He just wants them all killed.
He does. I think that it's who he is as a person, yeah.
Yes.
If he was a person, which he is not. So they are rebels, and they do stuff that we know that they're doing actual rebel stuff. Like, they're like, no, we're not rebels, but we all know they're rebels.
Yeah.
They're just doing their thing. And then, it's shocking that the general allowed rebel people to be in her most personal office.
It's also very shocking that rebels were ever allowed to be at this school.
Yeah, true that.
I think it was crazy that rebels go to this school.
Yeah.
I think it's absolutely insane. Where they try to hide knowledge like they are doing in the kingdom, they allow rebels who have experienced that knowledge to go to the school.
I think they should have been like scribes or been forced to be like in positions they didn't want to be in. And then the rebels that were in the dragon school could have been hiding like their marks, and the secret would have been they're like hiding the fact that they are rebels.
Right.
That.
Yeah, that makes more sense.
Because people were like, oh, you're a rebel right there. That guy with the tattoo is a rebel.
Yeah, because he had to get like a tattoo of it or whatever. But also, I just found it weird that they all wanted them to go to dragon school, and I was like, if you wanted them all to die in dragon school, why did you let them live in the first place? It doesn't make any sense. You could have, if you were going to use them where they would be most suited.
Stick them on the front lines. You got so many front lines.
Yeah, you have
The whole
soldiers
country
for a
is
reason.
front line.
Don't you have conscript soldiers? Like, geez, just stick them
They
on the
do.
front lines.
They do.
What are you doing? If you want them to actually die, just do that. Don't stick them in dragon riding school where they're going to gain immense abilities and immense powers like they do and become a threat to you. It seems very odd.
Zayden has one of the most helpful powers where he can like shadow and basically know what everyone is talking about at every time because he like sends shadows over there so he knows what everyone is doing.
Yeah, you can like shadow teleport, literally. So
he can shadow teleport because when he was standing on the rampart, like later on in the story, he was standing on him, and then she walked out there, and he was like, "What? No, you'd be in danger out here." And she's like, "You're also out there." And he said, "I have shadows, so I'm standing on a regular street." And I was like, so he can either use the shadows to like teleport into them if he fell off,
or they can pull him and
he can use his shadows, but they're not, he can somehow grasp with his shadows or something. So he's fine standing on the rampart, but she's not, obviously. Now it's time to get into her thing, which is she has 2 dragons. She's twice as cool as other people. She has the small gold dragon, which I'm sure everybody's shocked is a baby dragon. A baby. That's why it's small.
I am not shocked that it was a baby.
And then she has the second dragon, which is the black dragon, the coolest dragon of ever.
Okay.
The golden dragon gives her time stop abilities. It's based on, can only be done for a little bit of time, but it's time stop abilities where she can move during that time period. That's insanity.
That is completely
OP. And then her second power,
it's lightning.
When she got her second power, it was lightning. And I was actually disappointed.
I think she'll utilize it better in the future. But I did like her utilizing it in the final fight. I thought it sounded cool.
No,
crazy.
yeah, but you don't understand. Start off with the pretty awesome power and then go to the OP power. Don't start off with the OP power and go to the pretty cool power. If she was only getting one ability and they were like, she gets the power of lightning, I'd be like, that's awesome. That's so cool. But they started off by her having the ability to stop time. If you were going to be like, hey, there's 2 superheroes and one has the ability to stop time and the other one has lightning powers.
Well,
you'd be like, which one is better?
Time, obviously, because it doesn't matter how fast your lightning is.
And I was also like, the time ability makes sense because she has to go against some of the other
the guy who can see the future.
Guy who can see the future. So she needs to stop time, and even though he's going to be like, so that makes sense.
Yeah,
and I was like, but the power of lightning, she needed damage and she needed AoE damage, but
I understood it, but yeah, I can see what you're saying, that maybe the lightning should have come first before the time stop, and maybe that's how she should have done it, but I still do like her abilities at the end of the day.
No, I like her abilities. I think it's fine. I think the author flubbed it.
Okay.
I think that you could have been like, the little golden dragon doesn't have powers because it's just a little baby. And then finally she could have manifested.
And then she gets her lightning
power.
abilities, and then she realizes time stop. Yeah.
Yeah. That would be like, oh my goodness. Now, I can understand that the author did try to have the time stop ability because when she was sleeping, then she got attacked. And it would be like, oh, she doesn't have her powers. What's she going to do? Right? Whereas if she had her lightning abilities, and I understand why the author did it, but it felt like a downgrade from time stop to lightning.
I think that may have been just you.
During the conversation where we found out that during the lecture where we were talking about all the types of dragons, and we could tell exactly what type of dragon she was going to get, because they spent a lot of time talking about the black dragon that no one ever is going to get, so obviously she was going to get the black dragon that no one else was going to get. Right?
For sure.
So in that conversation where we're talking about it, then there is a comment, I think thought by her or something, or maybe said by her, where she says, no one has resurrection powers. And I was like, okay, she's getting resurrection powers. Because she was all like, oh, no one possibly has resurrection. I was waiting for the resurrection powers to show up.
Her brother might have that.
Okay. Spoiler.
Didn't he have healing? Didn't he have healing?
Danlock keeps giving away the entire story. Just a fun twist at the end. Was it fun? It was not. Let's talk about that.
I actually hated the twist.
I will say something. I think that her nickname, which is Violence instead of Violet, is pretty dumb, and I disagree every time it was used.
I think my problem with it is that it's too long. I like shorter nicknames, not longer than your actual name.
If he was calling her Vi instead of Violet, I would have been like, no problem. Nickname.
Vi, I would have been like, that's a nickname. Violence instead of Violet, I'm like, nah. It's longer than your actual name. That's not a nickname. That's a longer word.
The author pushed so hard into that her dragon for funsies also started calling her Violence. That's the true. Dumbest thing.
The dragons never had her back. I'm not shocked.
No, that's true. That's a good point.
As they seem to join the rebellion and then not tell her. And I went, aren't you like her dragons that are melted into her mind? And they go, yeah, we just didn't tell her.
The fact that we're part of the resistance. Oh, excuse me? Anyway, no, past that. Let's talk about the fact that the author telegraphed the final, the big bads in the first, 3 or 4 pages of the book by having her and her sister awkwardly, stiltedly talk about a fairy tale book to each other. Could have slipped this information in. She could have been reciting it. Okay, so for the listeners, she recites history when she's nervous or she's doing something really difficult. So she's going across this narrow rampart. She starts reciting history. Now, this is fun for a world building thing, but if she had been reciting these fairy tales and then the fairy tales actually were true, that would have been way more, oh my goodness, that thing that she was saying we actually needed to pay attention to because it actually came into play later, as opposed to her and her sister awkwardly oh, what about that book that you like? You mean the book that my father gave to me? Yes, that one. The one about the evil wizards? Yes, the ones who can't use dragon powers and so are taking from the earth. Oh, I do love that book that my father gave to me, but I can't bring it along. That's right. I told you not to bring along books that were going to be useless to you. The end of this conversation. That's so bad.
Yeah. I don't even know. I thought it was interesting that they literally couldn't be killed.
Yeah.
I guess at the end.
Yeah, but the problem is that you made these bad guys. It would have been more interesting if they were slipped in throughout the entirety of the book as people using them as a spooky gotcha kind of thing. Instead of, the problem is that it was not naturally woven in throughout the entirety of the story.
I guess I would have preferred if literally anybody else knew about these stories. Théoden knows about them because he lived through them.
When she's talking about these legends, he could have been slipping hints that they were real, but instead he was like, that's weird, okay. And I was like, dude, this is the chance of a lifetime.
Yeah,
you could say, hey, maybe they're actually not fake and not fairy tales. Weird things happen in real life.
The author had created the Dragon School concept first, and then also set the romance in it, and was going to have them go through all 3 years in the Dragon School, and then somebody said to the author, hey, you need to have something else going down, a secondary thing going down. What's Xander's deal? And she was like, he's a rebel, right? And then be rebelling from what? And then it took her much later on before she figured out what the rebellion thing was going to be about. She was pushing it till later. And then she had to go back to the beginning of the story and be oh, I don't want to make it completely this came out of nowhere. So then she shoved a paragraph or two about it in the beginning and then didn't change the rest of the story. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, I can see what you're saying. Also, I do wish there was more for me to be ingrained to like the Resistance, because I, at the moment, still don't.
The Resistance...
They still attack towns?
So I think the problem is Hot Broody Man did not give us any information. If Hot Broody Man was almost corrupting her throughout their like encounters, like if he was like shifting her opinion about things or like leaving something so that she would like information would be revealed to her, if he left like a letter from so-and-so to him and she like read it and she'd be like, oh, that's weird. But the only times that she gently questioned the system was when she was hanging out with Liam and she's like, that's weird. The paperwork didn't get revealed. And then he was like, that is weird. And then we got nothing else.
Yeah.
And then later was like, you're not going to get all the battle info.
Yeah, you thought the battle info from like literally the front lines was going to be in your battle talk? No.
Nah.
Yeah, I was like, I don't even know why you would expect that. Nobody would do that in our day either.
Yeah.
I was like, it's not that they're trying to withhold information even. It's that you shouldn't know the specifics of
everything, not the general.
Yeah. I'm not sure why the scribes knew it either, but scribes do have a mysterious job. We're completely off topic. Let's talk about the weird twist.
No body, no crime.
Okay, yeah, the weird twist at the end where it was the brother's alive. I'm not in love with it, to be honest.
No.
And Zayden knew about it the entire time.
The reason I'm irritated by our main character guy knowing about it the entire time is why is he even upset with her? Why is he not trying to get her to join the rebellion if her brother's already joined the rebellion? Why is he even considering them enemies?
I don't think he ever actually considered her his enemy.
Yeah, I don't think he did either. I think that was all in her mind. To be honest, we did have it from her perspective, the entire story.
We're enemies and we're always going to be enemies. And then he was like, it took me as her enemy. So then he would just be like, you're mine now for like 700% of the time. Didn't he say when he first saw her, he fell in love with her in his own mind when we were listening?
He did. But I would say I'm not as angry at him because probably the brother told him to keep it a secret. I blame the brother.
The main guy character can keep all of his secrets. I know that she was like, we're in love now. And he's like, yeah, we are. And I was like, but he doesn't have to tell you everything, especially when him telling something could get him killed. Anybody was listening.
And I don't see much of a reason for him to tell the secret about her brother being alive, but her brother not telling her, that is completely different.
He should have been training her to join the resistance. He should have been changing her mind because he shouldn't have been thinking of her. She's the daughter of the general person. He should have been thinking, I'm in cahoots with her brother so we can be on the same team.
Yeah. I can see that. But also, I would say it's not his secret to tell for that specific, for the brother thing at least. But you're right, about the resistance thing, he totally should have eased her into it. But I consider the brother twist to be all her brother's fault.
The author, wanted us to be shocked, and I was more, irritated.
I was also irritated.
I'm surprised the brother's alive. And I was like, I already knew he was alive.
I knew he was alive. I didn't want him to be alive, so I was believing the lie that he wasn't alive.
Annoying.
And I was like, she literally has zero reason to hate him now. And I want us to go back to her having a reason. Can the brother just die already?
Here's what I was like.
I would actually put money that the brother will die in the second book.
Here's the thing. Who cares about the brother?
Not me at all.
Because in the first half, if we had learned that the brother was alive, it would have been far more interesting. In the second half, so in the first half, it was like her brother was left a journal, and so she's following the journal, and it's affecting her life.
I can definitely see the mother saying that because he would be dead to her.
But and now, if I'm right, and I think I am, the brother disappeared 7 years ago, and her dad died 2 years ago.
Yeah, so, something like that. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Because if the brother had died, let's say, a year ago, I would have been like, oh, this makes perfect sense.
Sure, he hasn't had a chance to get back to you and talk to you.
He hasn't had a chance to actually reveal the secrets.
But I was like, it's been 7 years and you have not reached.
It's been a while, man.
You know that your sisters are going to keep your secret.
Yeah, right?
all these siblings who none of them care about the mom. So I guess the mom must be a pretty bad mom because none of them ever talk to her or think about her. Or I don't know if the brother and sister care about the dad either, because it seems like only our main character was hanging out with the dad.
Also, the brother's death seems very odd now. I don't know what happened, obviously. I assume that it had a lot to do with her brother actually betraying the kingdom.
Didn't the writer die who was supposedly trying to say... Oh, wait. Wasn't it the Black Dragon? Her dragon's writer died when trying to supposedly save her brother?
Yeah, something like that.
I think that's right.
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter. It's a dumb twist. I didn't like it.
Here's the thing. What I want to happen, and what I know doesn't happen, obviously, is I want her brother to not be real. But I have very little faith that would be the reality.
So interesting. They're like, this is your brother. And she's like, oh, you're alive.
Yeah, and it's actually just a trick. And that's not her brother.
So interesting. But
that would be interesting. I have very little faith that is the reality.
I'd be on board for that.
I would be on board for that, but I definitely don't have any faith that is what it is.
I don't have any opinion on the brother and his death, but I do have opinion on Liam and his death because it was totally unnecessary.
Yeah, sorry.
Liam's...
To the listeners, they killed off Liam because he was the only reasonable person in the story. Remember, like I said, he had like reasonable conversations with people and was actually communicative. So they killed him off because the author wrote only one nice person in this story, and it was that guy. So she killed him off to make his death more meaningful, or to make our main characters like upset and mad and stuff. But frankly, I was like, oh, I didn't care that he died because I was like, I don't really care. But the author was like, ha, got you, emotional impact. I killed off the nice guy. And I was like, you didn't get me. I just thought, what a lame way to go.
My irritation with Liam's death comes back to the problem I thought with this school. So they're letting everyone like sleep with each other or whatever because they don't care. But they don't have any children from these relationships because they're keeping it like there's some sort of magic.
I forgot about that.
But there's a problem with that because these are all like the top level people and they can get killed at any point, which means you're not carrying on lines, which actually means you're killing off like good writers for something, or they get killed by someone else, but their children, no one carries on their special abilities or anything. No one, they have no ancestors, so you just die in the school. And I'm like, but you could have had kids that you were raising up that were Dragon Rider kids. His death proves that there was a big issue because she says, our main character says, that Liam was the best writer of their entire class, meaning that they just lost their best writer, and there's no hope that they can get that. There's literally no hope that his particular genes will be passed on to the next generation.
Yeah, true.
Hopeless. They should have allowed kids to be born. If they're going to allow everyone to be sleeping around with no repercussions, they should have allowed kids to be born, period.
If you had the top Brainiac people all gathered in one place sleeping with whoever, you should have just like a set group of females so that they will sleep with the guys, or, you know what I'm saying? That the guys will sleep together with these girls to carry on those lines. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, because you can't have the female writers getting pregnant. I can understand that.
That'd be difficult. The dragon doesn't want to go fly. She's pregnant and she's thrown up or whatever. Makes sense. But honestly...
And she's not going to want to ride a dragon while she's pregnant. That's not...
Liam wanted to date the scribe girl. So I'm just saying he should have been fine.
I did think it was funny where they were like, magic. We have this magic ability that keeps us from getting people pregnant. But let's be honest here. Only the second years would know how to do this magic ability. So first years don't. So anyone who is a first year and sleeping with other first years can just get pregnant.
You know what would be funny is if her friend who sleeps around with everybody.
I wish that girl would get pregnant.
He's so funny. And I know that they were like, she's sleeping with girls. I was like, she was also sleeping with guys though. She was doing both. She
was
an
definitely
equal.
doing both. She was.
When she would sleep with them. I don't know. I didn't think that she was particularly good looking. Her friend, like when we encountered her friend, I was like, oh, she's just like a generic run of the mill person.
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
I just thought she must have a lot of charisma. I don't know.
Oh, she must be charisma up the wazoo because she's pulling so many people. And our main character can't even with her childhood best friend. But you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I was like, where's her friend finding all the eligible people?
And also, didn't her childhood best friend sleep with somebody when he was in his first year?
Who knows?
Yeah, like when we first met him.
He's probably
and
still
he was
sleeping
like,
with people. I was like, I wouldn't put it past to that guy if he was sleeping with hordes of people.
Dumb twist. I thought, I don't even know where this can go because he was revered in our mind as like a cool guy who died and was looking out for his siblings.
Right. Yeah, he's now trash because he hid. So I instantly have zero respect for him.
Die a hero or live long enough to see yourself a villain. That's what he did.
He is a villain, actually. I will stand on that.
He hid for 7 years. That's not the mark of a hero, I'll tell you what.
I'll tell you what, he ain't no hero in my mind. It is his fault, probably, that Zayden's dad is dead. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
And it's also probably his fault that the other guy is dead. Whoever rode the black dragon. Yeah. Who tried to save him. And I don't know why in the world they were like, oh, he just tried to resurrect him. And I was like, yeah, that's obviously, I guess now it's false. Unless he actually is a trick. Yay!
Yeah, but we know that writer is dead.
Can I quickly tell my fan fiction before we end this podcast?
Go for it.
Sure.
Okay, so Rey from Star Wars.
I'm aware.
She is actually she has a mending power, and she gained this by just watching other menders work. So she lives in a town near the border or something, and she's obviously an orphan because that's canon. And then is in a random village near the walls, and a dragon loses its rider near that town because of a battle. And so Rey mends the dragon back to health. The dragon chooses her as its rider, and then tells her in mind communication that she must go and become a dragon rider. Rey's afraid that they won't take her in because she has no name other than Rey. So the person who died was Paige, Rose's older sister. And so she takes on Rose's name because Rose allows her to do that. And she gets the dragon to burn her rebellion signet on her so she can pretend to be part of the rebellion because Paige was part of the rebellion children. Then she goes to figure out a way into the Dragon Rider Academy. She wants to bypass the people who possibly will know that she's not Rose. In order to do that, she decides to slip into the Dragon Academy at the bridge that they can all fall off before they enter. She has a hook thing, and she's gonna climb up the rope ladder she's making, that she's gonna hook it on the bridge. Anyway, she's gonna throw up smoke bombs so that when she comes out, that no one will even notice that she climbed up this thing and then walked across the walk instead of walking the normal way. So when she throws the smoke bombs up, then that's the same moment that Violet is slipping. So she has thrown the rope up, and the smoke bombs are so no one can see anything. And Violet accidentally grabs onto the rope because she was like slipping off the bridge or whatever. Anyway, Rey comes up. They decide to change top layers. In my version, Violet actually wants to be part of the scribe squad, like she said. And so then Violet goes in disguise into the Rider squad, taking on Rey's name. And Rey still sticks with her name that she was going with, Rose. So Violet enters the Rider squad, and Rey enters the Dragon Rider squad. The only person who noticed this weird thing that went on was Liam, who then is like following Ray around to figure out like what's going on. This is weird. Ray meets up with Violet all the time to talk about what they've learned and whatever. Violet's investigating weird things that are happening in the Scribe Squad. And Ray tells her what's going on her side. So they're actually working together and communicating with what they're finding out. There's a lot of interesting stuff that goes on. Of course, is now part of the rebel community. So she goes to all their meetings because she's one of them. And so she can find out all this information. Liam tells the hot main character guy, tells him something's weird and that she keeps an eye on Ray. So Xaden is trying to keep an eye on her too. He's what's going on. Ray doesn't really need a dragon because she's already got a dragon. So when they go to the dragon like meeting place, she's like, I already got my dragon. So she's not looking around for her dragon or anything because the dragon's just going to choose her at the ceremony thing. It turns out that Violet hears that her brother's dragon is there ready to be chosen by someone else. Her brother's dragon is there. And so she wants to see and maybe talk to her brother's dragon. So she says, hey, Ray, can you get me in there just so I can talk to the dragon and maybe talk about my brother or something. And so Ray has her dragon fly Violet in to the place and then is going to fly her out before anyone notices. Anyway, so she drops her down and then the whole confrontation between the golden dragon and everything happens. So that happens. So when she leaves, flying away on a dragon, he like goes and follows her. That's when the dragons claim her because they follow her flying on the dragon drops her off. They claim her because they find out she doesn't have a dragon, so they claim her. So she's in the Scribe Quadrant and she does dragon training by night. Xaden was like training her at night and then he's actually helping her and giving her hints. There's no guy around her to read her mind, so there's no reason why he can't just tell her all this stuff. So then he just tells her all this stuff and they can actually train well. Ray has resurrection power, so there we go.
Okay.
She will bring Liam back to life later because she has resurrection power. We have Griffin Rider, Kylo Ren. He actually kidnapped her earlier in the story when he found her riding around on a dragon before she entered the Dragon Rider squad.
Great.
Because he was trying to find out secret information about the Dragon Riders because the guy who's in charge of him was like, he saw the rebel signet on Ray, will use her as a spy, but then she didn't know any information, and so then he just let her go. So Kylo Ren and Ray are connected in their dreams. They have voice dreams, and they just fall in love with each other and are dating. They kill off the Supreme Griffin Rider that he's in charge of because he's trying to hurt Ray, and so they just kill him off. So previously Ben was a scribe and he worked for the general guy that can see the future. So he was a scribe that worked for the general guy that can see the future. So Luke, this general guy, tried to kill him off because he can see the future. And so then Ben left and became a Griffin Rider because he thought all Dragon Riders were bad because the main guy tried to kill him off. Then he worked his way up to second in command, and then he saw the rebels as a threat since his Griffin Rider in command was like, I don't like Dragon Riders, and so then he was trying to get him to work against the rebels. Anyway, Violet was training in secret when she gets a message to come to the outpost to help for the war games. She had come a few more times secretly because the dragons cannot be separated for that long, but this time she came in full force because she learned that they were actually in desperate straits, and so then she's able to use her lightning powers, and then Liam does die, but then Ray can resurrect him because she has resurrection powers. Violet's family does assume she's dead. She's not betrayed by the fact that they were helping the Griffin Riders because she was secretly doing stuff too. And he told her everything because they didn't have the other guy to read all of her thoughts or anything like that. And that's the end of my fan fiction.
Okay.
So I just kept Liam alive. That's the essential.
You put them in, and they seem pretty solid as in where they would be in the story. And also, yeah, you got to bring back a character who you wanted to bring back. Solid. I love it. Go for it.
Okay. Yeah.
Excited for the TV show that's coming out. I think the TV show will be better because we're not in her mind all the time, and I think that will be better for us.
Probably, I guess. I'd say I had a lot of fun reading. I'm still reading. I'm on the second book currently. I'm making my way through it. I'll get through it. It's like a 7.5 out of 10 for me. I'll get through the next book and I'll see. Yeah.
I would rate it at a 5.5 right now. I think it could get better with the next book, and it would definitely get better as a TV show. I think the TV show is something I'm really looking forward to because I think it would fix a lot of the problems I had with reading the story.
Yeah, I can see that, to be perfectly honest. Yeah, I am excited also for the TV show.
I would put it at maybe a 3 or a 4. But that is my rating.
We'll see what happens there. And I think this has been the Uncultured Podcast. Swine's out.
Goodbye.